Amanda Foster lived what many would describe as a quiet, content life. She and her husband, Eric, had been together for a decade, settled into a modest but cozy home in Dover, Pennsylvania. Amanda owned a small bakery downtown where she spent her mornings making pastries and chatting with loyal customers. Eric worked in logistics, managing shipments for a regional supply chain company. Their life together was predictable: early mornings, quiet dinners, and weekend grocery runs. It wasn't exciting, but it was stable, and Amanda believed that stability meant security. Things started to shift the day Eric brought home an old friend named Josh Taylor. He introduced him as someone he'd grown up with, a guy who'd just moved back to town after years living in Chicago. Amanda welcomed him without hesitation. Josh was polite, well-spoken, and had an easy charm about him. He talked about his career, about wanting a fresh start, and about how lucky he felt to reconnect with Eric after all these years. Amanda smiled, not thinking twice. It was just another friend, someone who would come by now and then to hang out or catch a football game. But Josh didn't just visit occasionally, he quickly became a fixture. He came over for dinner more and more, joined them on casual outings, and even helped Eric with odd jobs around the house. Amanda didn't mind. At first, she enjoyed having someone around who made conversation flow easily and added some energy to their routine evenings. Josh helped her carry groceries, complimented her baking, and always had something nice to say. It all seemed innocent. The three of them fell into a pattern. Weeknights often ended with a movie or board game, with Josh seated comfortably on the Foz's living room couch like he belonged. On weekends, he would tag along on trips to the farmer's market or swing by unannounced for coffee. Amanda never felt the need to question it. He was Eric's friend after all, and Eric seemed happy to have him around. But over time, Amanda noticed subtle shifts. Josh's presence began to feel less casual and more calculated. He always sat a little too close. His compliments became more personal. He lingered in the kitchen when she was alone, asked questions about her marriage, her dreams, and her past. Still, she brushed it off. Josh was just being friendly, and she was just reading too much into things. Eric, for his part, didn't seem to notice anything unusual. He was often distracted with work, glued to his laptop or on calls, and trusted Josh enough to leave the two of them alone without concern. Amanda sometimes wondered if Eric saw the shift but chose to ignore it. They hadn't been as close lately. Conversations were shorter, physical affection had faded, and she often felt like just another part of his daily routine. Josh, by contrast, made her feel visible. Amanda found herself looking forward to Josh's visits. She hated that part of herself, the part that noticed how he looked at her, how he listened more closely than Eric did, how he made her laugh. She buried those feelings quickly, trying to preserve what she and Eric had. But a part of her, deep down, had already started slipping. Nothing had happened. Not yet, but Amanda didn't know that the line between comfort and danger was already blurring. The man she thought was just her husband's friend was becoming something else. And the deeper he wove himself into their lives, the closer he came to unraveling everything. In Amanda's world of routine and safety, a quiet storm was beginning to form, one that would start with temptation and end with blood. As the weeks passed, Amanda began to feel a strange tension in the air, subtle but impossible to ignore. Josh had become part of the household rhythm. He helped install new shelves in the kitchen, painted the garage with Eric, and even attended Amanda's birthday dinner as though he were family. To outsiders, he was just the friendly houseguest or the long-lost friend fitting back into the fold. But to Amanda, things no longer felt innocent. Josh started showing up when Eric wasn't home. At first, it seemed harmless. He said he was just dropping off tools or coming by to check on a leaky faucet he'd helped fix. But he lingered. He asked Amanda if she ever felt lonely. He complimented her dress, her perfume, even her smile. Though Amanda didn't reciprocate, she didn't stop him either. She convinced herself it was still nothing. It wasn't just Josh who had changed. Eric had grown distant in ways Amanda couldn't explain. He seemed exhausted, withdrawn, more irritable than usual. He barely noticed Amanda's new haircut or the dinner she spent hours preparing. His phone, once left casually on the counter, was now kept face down or locked away in his pocket. Conversations were brief, filled with logistical updates, but no emotion. The warmth had drained out of their marriage like a slow leak, and Amanda didn't know how to patch it. Josh filled that emotional space. He began to appear not just as a friend, but as a contrast. Where Eric was absent, Josh was present. Where Eric was cold, Josh was attentive. Amanda tried to resist the pull, but slowly she started confiding in him. She shared frustrations she hadn't dared speak aloud. Josh listened without judgment. He made her feel seen. One evening, during a heavy thunderstorm, Amanda found herself alone with Josh. Eric had texted saying he'd be working late again. Josh had come by under the excuse of returning a borrowed drill. He noticed Amanda looked tense and asked if everything was okay. The power flickered, and in that dim, flickering light, Amanda finally let go of the resistance she'd been holding. Their connection, once subtle and one-sided, now crossed a line. A brief moment became a defining one. Amanda woke up the next morning filled with guilt. She avoided Josh's gaze when he returned later that day. She cooked dinner for Eric as if nothing had happened, cleaning and organizing like she could scrub the memory from the walls. But something had shifted permanently. She had betrayed her marriage. Worse, she had let a stranger into her life and heart without understanding who he really was. Josh, however, didn't behave like someone holding a secret. He acted bolder, more confident, like he now had something over her. He didn't just flirt anymore, he made suggestions about their future. He started referring to Eric in the past tense. He asked Amanda if she was happy, if she ever thought about starting over. Amanda was horrified by his forwardness, but a darker part of her couldn't look away. It was around this time that Eric started acting strangely too. He began asking quiet, probing questions about her day, about whether she'd seen Josh, about whether anything was wrong. He started coming home earlier, watching her more closely. Amanda felt the weight of suspicion growing in the house. No one said anything, but everything felt on the verge of explosion. What Amanda didn't know was that Eric had already started digging. He had noticed the looks, the odd timings, the strange shifts in behavior. And beneath the quiet surface of his silence, Eric had discovered something that would change everything. The triangle inside their once peaceful home was tightening. And only one of them would come out alive. Eric wasn't a man prone to emotional outbursts, but he wasn't blind. Weeks of subtle changes, quiet observations, and missed cues had built up into a disturbing picture he couldn't ignore. At first, he tried to convince himself he was imagining things: Amanda's distracted smile, Josh's constant presence, the faint scent of cologne that didn't belong to him. But the evidence kept piling up until denial was no longer an option. He started keeping track, mentally noting the times Josh came over, how long he stayed, when Amanda's behavior seemed off. Then he started checking phone records, even though Amanda had recently set a new passcode. He found brief calls and vague texts that didn't add up. There was a message from Josh that read only, "Last night was perfect." It hit Eric like a punch to the chest. Instead of confronting them, Eric chose to wait and watch. He installed a small camera near the garage, claiming it was for security. He checked their shared laptop's browsing history. Amanda had looked up topics like how to tell if you're falling out of love and what to do if you regret cheating. It confirmed everything. But what disturbed Eric more than the betrayal was the pattern. Josh wasn't just a man who had intruded into his life. He was methodical, calculating. Eric discovered Josh had once lived with another couple in Arizona under similar pretenses. That relationship had ended with the husband vanishing and the wife relocating without explanation. The more Eric dug, the more he realized Josh's charm was a mask for something much darker. Amanda, on the other hand, was starting to feel trapped. What had begun as an emotional escape had turned into a slow descent into something dangerous. Josh had become possessive. He dropped hints that he knew her routines, commented on what she wore even when he wasn't at the house, and once mentioned something she had said privately to Eric. Amanda started to question just how much Josh had been watching her and for how long. She wanted to end it, but Josh made her feel like it was already too late. He would casually mention Eric's habits, his routes to work, or how easy it would be to disappear. Amanda realized that she had let in someone she couldn't control. Josh was no longer a guest in her life. He had embedded himself like a parasite. Eric finally decided to act. He told Amanda he was going on a weekend business trip, hoping the separation would give him time to think and bait Josh into revealing his true intentions. But Eric didn't go far. He stayed at a nearby motel and monitored the camera feeds. Remotely, he watched as Josh entered his house just hours after he left. Eric waited, his heart pounding, as the footage played out. Josh made himself at home. He poured a drink, turned on the TV, and wandered into the master bedroom. Minutes later, Amanda arrived, visibly surprised. Their body language was stiff. It wasn't the reunion of two lovers, it looked like a confrontation. Amanda appeared tense, backing away from Josh. Eric saw her point toward the door, clearly. Asking him to leave, Josh refused. He moved closer. Eric couldn't watch anymore. He rushed from the motel to the house, heart racing with fear and fury. By the time he got there, Josh's car was gone, and Amanda was sitting alone in the living room, shaken. She didn't have to say anything. Eric already knew. That night Amanda confessed everything, the affair, the fear, the threats. But what neither of them realized was that Josh had heard their conversation through a listening device he had. Planted weeks earlier, the game was no longer secret. Now it was war, and Josh never played fair. Amanda and Eric tried to reclaim a sense of normalcy, but it was like living with a storm hovering overhead. They didn't sleep well. Every creak of the floorboards, every unknown car parked down the street, sent their nerves into overdrive. Amanda had already reported Josh's behavior to the police, but without concrete threats or evidence of violence, there wasn't much law enforcement could do. He hadn't technically broken any laws yet. Eric installed new locks, added extra cameras, and started carrying a concealed weapon. Amanda changed her routines and stopped going out alone. Still, nothing made them feel safe. Josh had vanished, but that only made it worse. It meant he was planning something. He hadn't given up. He was just waiting. One morning, Amanda woke up to find a single rose on the porch. No note. No sign of who left it. The cameras caught nothing. A week later, she found a picture of her and Eric from their wedding day, tucked beneath her car's windshield wiper. It hadn't been there when she parked. Josh was taunting them, reminding them that he was close, always watching. Eric was spiraling. He wasn't just angry anymore, he was paranoid. He started reviewing the footage multiple times a day, barely eating, barely sleeping. Amanda tried to calm him, but he couldn't stop. He felt like he had failed to protect her. Now the only thing he wanted was for Josh to pay. Then came the fire. In the middle of the night, the shed in their backyard went up in flames. Firefighters arrived quickly, but the structure was destroyed. No one was hurt, but inside the charred remains, they found something chilling, a half-melted action figure that Eric had owned since childhood. It had been kept in his office, not the shed. There was no doubt now. Josh had broken into the house. He had walked through their rooms while they slept. Amanda and Eric packed bags and moved into a friend's guest house across town. But the damage had already been done. Their sense of safety was shattered. Every knock at the door made Amanda freeze. Every unfamiliar face made Eric reach for his holster. The psychological pressure was unbearable. Then, something changed. For 2 weeks, there was silence. No roses, no messages. No signs of Josh. Amanda allowed herself to breathe again. She started therapy. Eric scheduled a few job interviews in another state, hoping a fresh start would help them heal. They even spoke about selling the house and disappearing from Josh's radar altogether, but Josh hadn't disappeared. He had been watching, planning his next move. When Amanda drove back to the old house alone one afternoon to grab some important documents, Josh was waiting inside. He had broken in again, this time. Through the basement. She noticed something was wrong the second she walked in. A window was slightly open. The air felt colder. Her instincts screamed for her to leave, but she was already too far inside. Josh stepped out from the shadows, calm, smiling. Amanda tried to run, but he blocked the door. He didn't yell. He didn't strike. Instead, he spoke in a low, even tone, as if trying to explain himself. He blamed Eric, said Amanda was meant to be with him. Said Eric didn't deserve her. Amanda was frozen in place, unable to move. Meanwhile, Eric, who had seen Amanda's car return to the house on one of the external cameras he forgot to disconnect, felt something was off. He rushed over, speeding through red lights and nearly colliding with another car. As he approached the house, he saw the open basement window and knew immediately that Josh was inside. What happened next would change everything forever. Eric crept around the back of the house, his heart pounding so loudly it echoed in his ears. He didn't call the police. He didn't hesitate. He knew time was running out. Amanda's car was in the driveway, but the house was quiet, too quiet. He moved silently toward the basement window and looked inside. It was dark, but he saw movement, a figure. Then, too, inside, Amanda stood frozen as Josh circled her slowly, speaking in a disturbing, calm voice. She could barely hear the words. All she knew was that she couldn't let fear paralyze her again, but her body wouldn't listen. Her eyes kept darting toward the door, toward the kitchen, toward anything she could use to defend herself. Josh seemed to enjoy her panic. He stepped closer, reaching out like he was comforting her. She flinched and took a step back. That's when Eric struck. He kicked open the back door and charged in, the sound of splintering wood reverberating through the house. Josh turned, startled for just a second, then lunged. The two men crashed into the wall, knocking over a lamp and shattering a picture frame. Amanda scrambled out of the way as the struggle intensified. Eric was stronger, but Josh was wild desperate. They fought through the hallway, into the living room, overturning furniture and shattering glass. Amanda grabbed a heavy candle holder and shouted for Eric to duck. He did, just in time for her to strike Josh in the side of the head. He collapsed, groaning. Eric wasted no time and pinned him down, yelling for Amanda to call the police. When officers arrived minutes later, they found Josh bloodied and dazed, restrained beneath Eric's knee. The scene was chaotic, shattered furniture, blood on the floor, Amanda shaking uncontrollably. Josh was arrested on the spot for breaking and entering, stalking, and attempted assault. It should have ended there, but it didn't. Over the next 48 hours, detectives uncovered something even darker. Josh hadn't just been stalking Amanda. He had been recording them, placing hidden cameras in their vents, accessing their phones remotely, even listening in on therapy sessions. A search of his apartment revealed hundreds of images, audio recordings, and detailed plans. There were even fake identities, maps, and documents indicating he was preparing to kidnap Amanda. The most chilling part, Josh believed none of this was wrong. In his mind, Amanda belonged to him and Eric was the intruder. The media exploded with the story. Headlines painted Josh as a deranged man obsessed with his best friend's wife, while Amanda and Eric were portrayed as victims of a long psychological nightmare. But behind the cameras and articles, the emotional toll was far deeper. Amanda moved into a trauma center for recovery. Eric took a leave from work and stayed by her side. They tried to rebuild what was broken, but something fundamental had changed. They were no longer the couple who once took quiet walks and shared midnight laughs. They were survivors now forever altered by someone they once trusted. Josh was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 25 years without parole. He showed no remorse in court, staring blankly ahead as the sentence was read. Amanda refused to attend the final hearing. Eric went alone, standing silent as Josh was led away in handcuffs. In the months that followed, Amanda and Eric sold their house and moved across the country. No forwarding address, no social media, no contact with the past. They didn't want justice. They wanted peace. But every now and then, when a door creaks unexpectedly or an unfamiliar car lingers too long outside, Amanda still wonders, what if Josh wasn't the only one watching?